This is a quick video about the CER frame for Is Survival Selfish? Now, hopefully by this time in the semester, you are able to identify the title, Is Survival Selfish? Let me go ahead and highlight that actually. And just based on the title alone, we know that it is asking us a question. Is survival selfish? This leads us to know the article must answer the question. Is survival selfish? So the answer is going to be either survival is selfish, is selfish, or is not selfish. Let's look at this small excerpt from our article. We may have an instinct for survival, but it clearly doesn't always kick in the way that it should. A guy who provides survival training told me once that the number one determining factor for survival is simply whether people hold it together in a crisis or fall apart. This is clearly very important. Why do I know it's very important? Because he uses the words, the number one. This is very important. And he said it's impossible to predict ahead of time who's going to hold it together or who's going to fall apart. Well, isn't that a drag? Because in order to survive, you must hold it together or fall apart. This is to not hold it together. And it's impossible to predict. This is to know in advance ahead of time who's going to hold it together and fall apart. So we have another question. So what is the responsibility, the obligation of those who hold it together? I remember reading the account of one woman who was in an airliner that crashed on landing. That's terrifying. People on the airplane were frozen or screaming, but nobody was moving towards the emergency exits, even as smoke began to fill the cabin. After realizing that people around her were too paralyzed to react, this woman, took direct action. She crawled over rows of people to get to the exit. She got out of the plane and survived. Good for her. Very few others in the plane, which was soon consumed by smoke and fire, did. That's sad. And afterwards, I remember the woman who got out of the plane and survived, she said that she battled a lot of guilt for saving herself instead of trying to save others. Okay, tragic story. And what is the author driving at? The question is, what? Is survival selfish? Did this woman here, did she think of others? No, she did not think of others. Who did she think about? She thought about herself. Is that selfish? Well, the argument is, what happens if she had thought about others? Could she have actually gotten them off the plane? Maybe, maybe not. But would she have died? And remember, we're not talking about if it's right or wrong to help somebody. We're talking about what do you need to do to survive. You may have to crawl over others and save yourself. So let's work on our claim. Now, I'm going to choose to focus on the number one thing to survive. And I'm going to say claim to survive a crisis. You must hold it together. You must hold it together. You must, what are they meaning by holding it together? I don't want to use the exact same words. I want to put it in my own words. You must hold it together. You must maybe talk holding it together. What are we holding together? We're holding together our panic, our emotions. So maybe to survive a crisis, you must be able to control your emotions. Now, evidence. Where am I getting this information from? Well, clearly I'm getting it from this quote. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this quote right here in my evidence box. I'm going to say the number one, and I'm going to abbreviate a little bit for the sake of this video, but the number one factor is whether people hold it together in a crisis. I expect you guys to have that all filled out. And I need to put my citation. The citation is from Wallace. And I know this is from page number 3. Now, the reasoning. My claim, my opinion, is to survive a crisis, you must control your emotions. And I have a quote, which is providing support for my claim. These two things are tied together. But now I need to give some commentary. I need to explain why is this ability to control your emotions, why does this let you survive? So I think for me, to control your emotions allows you to think logically. To control your emotions allows you to think logically, to make plans, and to not let panic determine your actions. Panic may cause you to make foolish decisions rather than logical ones. And foolish decisions often get people maybe in trouble or dead. Okay, so kind of here's my bullet points, my outline. To survive a crisis, you must be able to control your emotions. I have my quote, and I have an explanation. I'm really thinking about this idea about logic versus an emotional response. Thinking versus reacting. Or maybe another word for thinking is responding. Responding, thinking, reacting, right? This, there's no thought. to a reaction. It's kind of like when you tap your knee and your leg kicks out. A response, though, is calculated, is intentional. Hopefully this is a helpful outline for you guys to begin working on your paragraph frame. Remember, this is the finished product. You are supposed to plug in your details right here if you need the assistance. If not, you may write a paragraph on your own.